Hello and welcome to Lisa Loves. And today's case is actually a little bit different to the ones that I've done so far. I'm doing this as this is a new Netflix documentary that I watched recently that I found very interesting. And it's one that I wanted to share with you and encourage you to watch. The Netflix documentary has the title Tell Me Who I Am. And it follows the life of Alex and Marcus Lewis, twins who were from an aristocratic family in Sussex in England. The story kind of starts in 1982. Alex has a very serious motorcycle accident. He's 18 years old. He has a traumatic head injury and he lies in a coma for some time afterwards. When he awakes from the coma, he has lost all memory. The only person he actually recognises is his twin brother Marcus. He doesn't recognise his mother. He has no memory of his past whatsoever. And Marcus makes it his job to actually fill in those memories for Alex. To let him know about their life together, family holidays they had, their parents, and anything else that he could. So in those months that followed, Alex relied on Marcus very heavily for everything, from where things were in the home to who their friends were to things in their past like family holidays they perhaps went on together. He heavily relied on photographs to sort of like have a visual representation to go with those memories. But there was just one problem. Marcus wasn't telling the truth to Alex. Alex and Marcus's past was not as sweet, was not as normal as Marcus was actually leading Alex to believe. They had undergone quite a traumatic childhood, and Marcus was actually trying to protect Alex from the knowledge that he had had to struggle to deal with for many years. So Alex and Marcus's biological father had tragically died in a car accident when they were 3 years old, and his mother Jill was quite an aloof woman. She was quite cold with her children, but very, very popular in society, was very renowned for throwing massive, lavish parties, and was very well loved and respected and adored by most people that encountered her. Their stepfather was a very angry man, very distant, prone to outbursts a lot of the time, and didn't really have a relationship as such with his stepchildren. Now, what is very odd is that obviously they lived in pretty much a mansion, but Alex and Marcus were actually banned from a vast proportion of the house, and they slept together in a shed of sorts in the back garden, and they were not allowed a key to the property over the years. They weren't allowed to be able to come and go as they wanted in their own home. So Marcus told Alex everything that he thought that Alex would want to know. He showed him photographs and told him about idyllic childhood holidays, when in actual fact the only time they'd been on holiday was with friends of the family. Their parents never took them on holiday together. Alex often joked that he lost his virginity twice to the same girl, as he had to get to know his girlfriend again, and Marcus very much helped him with that, told him little anecdotes and stories, as Alex very much didn't like people and friends to know that he fully did not know any of them. He didn't recognise them, and he had no memory of things they'd been through, things they'd done together, so he had leaned very heavily on Marcus for this. Marcus did say in the documentary, I painted a picture for Alex, but none of it was true. I was painting a fantasy of a life that I wanted for him. So the happy family facade that Marcus had painted for Alex actually began to unravel in 1990 when their stepfather Jack died. He passed away of pancreatic cancer. And on his deathbed, he actually asked his stepsons, for forgiveness. And Alex obviously said, of course, thinking it was just because his father was cold and distant and quite prone to be angry. But Marcus refused to forgive his father, and Alex was distraught. He couldn't believe that his brother was refusing a dying man's wish of forgiveness. And it was at this stage that Alex began to wonder, was there something more to this that Marcus perhaps wasn't telling him? 5 years later, their mother Jill actually died from a brain aneurysm, and this puzzled Alex all the more because Marcus's very cold, emotionless reaction to his mother's passing, just things didn't add up for Alex. He was beginning to start asking questions. So now, with the death of their parents and finally getting access to the key that they'd been denied all those years, Alex and Marcus, now 32 years old, set about going through the house as you do and clearing it out, and they found all sorts of manner of strange things, including jars stuffed full of £50 notes hidden behind curtains, stitched into curtains. They got to the attic and they discovered decades worth of Christmas and birthday presents still wrapped, covered in dust, addressed to both Marcus and Alex, that had been sent from godparents and family members and cousins and uncles. These had all been kept by their mother but had never been given to Marcus and Alex. They had never actually had a birthday. They'd never celebrated a birthday, had a present, celebrated a Christmas or had a Christmas present. And this was just something they accepted as normal. But it became evident upon discovering all these presents that something in their life perhaps wasn't quite normal. Marcus obviously was fully aware of the situation, but Alex was still very much questioning what was going on. They discover a cupboard in a bathroom crammed full of sex toys, which they found quite odd for their parents and how they were. But I suppose we can say, well, maybe that's not too unusual, but children don't know what their parents strictly are up to. But at the back of the mother's room was a wardrobe with a locked drawer, and within that drawer they actually found a photograph of Marcus and Alex together, fully naked. They were about 10 years old, but their heads had been chopped off the photograph. This was too much for Alex to ignore, and the penny had dropped, and he asked his brother Marcus, were we sexually abused as children? And Marcus finally relents and tells his brother that yes, they were sexually abused by their mother as children. Despite coming clean to his brother for decades, Marcus refused to give Alex any details of the abuse. As far as he was concerned, this is something that he had buried, and it had taken him decades to forget, and he did not really see why Alex needed detail. He had told him that abuse took place, but Alex, with no picture, with no memory, this was not enough for Alex. And the brothers eventually drifted apart and had very separate lives from one another. And as twins that had been very close all this time, it was devastating for both of them, but they both got on with their subsequent lives separately. In the documentary on Netflix, Tell Me Who I Am, the brothers are actually reunited, where finally Marcus agrees to tell Alex about what went on between them. He realises that that was not something for him to keep from his brother. He realises the error of his ways. And he said, Alex lost his memory involuntarily by accident. I lost my memory on purpose. He was not ready to relive what he went through in order to let his brother know details of what had happened. I'm not obviously going to go into any detail of the abuse, as I do not feel that is appropriate, but Marcus couldn't even sit down face to face with Alex and tell him of the abuse. He recorded a piece to camera, which Alex was then allowed to watch, and then the brothers met up again afterwards. It transpired that much more went on than Alex was under the impression. Yes, they had been abused by their mother, but she had also allowed friends to abuse them. She had taken them to strange men's houses and left them there, and they were dropped back home the next day. And this became a norm for both boys. They were basically lent out to all and sundry. As I say, I'm not going to go into any details of the abuse, as I do not feel that's warranted, but it was very much more than Alex was actually expecting. And although I do feel that he thought Marcus should have told him everything all those years ago, I think he was a bit more understanding as to why Marcus hadn't gone into detail, because it was something that Marcus was really struggling with himself. He had post-traumatic stress. This abuse actually stopped when they were 14 years old, as one day, in one of the beds of one of the men that his mother had taken him to, Marcus decided no, enough. And he told the man no, and he got out of the bed and he went home. And he walked miles home. And his mother the next morning saw him in his bed, which he shouldn't have been in. He should still have been in that gentleman's house. And she just looked at him with a look of complete and utter horror on her face. And that was the last time that either of the boys were abused or taken anywhere. It stopped from that day. So perhaps with the secrecy of this situation and the shame that Marcus felt, you would perhaps ask why they decided to do a television programme about it. But I think this has been quite cathartic for both brothers, and they want the discussion around childhood abuse not to be a stigma. They want people to be able to talk. They want to be able to open the conversation for other people to be able to discuss perhaps instances that they underwent themselves in the past. They say people shouldn't be ashamed of what has happened to them in the past, as it's not their fault, and they want to get rid of that stigma and encourage people to speak out and receive the healing that they themselves have from doing this. So it's a very strange story, it's a very upsetting story, but it's very much well worth watching. As I say, it's on Netflix right now and it's called Tell Me Who I Am. So let me know below in the comments, have you watched the documentary? What were your thoughts? Do you think that Marcus should have kept that secret all those years for Alex in trying to give him the perfect childhood and the perfect past, and to shelter him from the stressful, hideous past that he actually really had? Or do you feel that he should have been fully transparent with his twin when asked, and give full information as requested? So let me know below in the comments, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Over and out from Lisa Loves.